Hi, so this is my third video about my, what's the word? I'm not great with words. I don't want to say struggle, and I don't want to say like my recovery journey with depression. So I touched on a few things about my first diagnosis of depression in 2012. So I'm going to talk about my diagnosis this year. There's a lot of a behind story to it that started in 2016, and I'm not going to touch on that today. That's a whole other ordeal. But everything that happened from 2016 to 2018 ending led up to me finally going back to the doctors and asking for help. But it was a lot worse than it was in 2012. Like, it wasn't just a case of I was depressed, I was sad and lonely and things like that. This time it escalated to a level higher, if that makes sense. So for about, I don't know, a year, 18 months maybe, when I got sad, it wasn't sad, it was past that. So I'd get sad, but there was no rational thought process, and it went past sad. So like, when most people get upset, they cry about it, they think about the situation, and eventually like they play the situation over in their heads and what they could have done differently, and they can also like solve the thing that's making them sad, like if it's a case of arguing with somebody or anything like that. So for me, it went way past that. I would replay it and replay it and replay it and replay it, and I would get to the point where pretty quickly as well, it's not even a case of like it took a while, I would almost instantly go to I shouldn't exist, that I didn't belong, or I didn't deserve this life. And I was extremely suicidal. I never did hurt myself, but I had plans a few times, and I'd set things in motion, and something would always come up and it would stop me. But it's like there's no rational bit of your brain that goes, you do deserve to be alive and you are a good person. Like, especially when you're arguing with somebody that you love and they're saying horrible things, you believe them and you think, yeah, I don't deserve to be in this world, I don't deserve this life. And one of the main huge things that stopped me was obviously my son. I would hate the idea of me being so selfish could potentially ruin his whole life. I mean, I've seen people and been brought up around people that have had and have been affected by people, loved ones, committing suicide, and I've seen how much that has affected them, their family and everything, that to think that I could make his life even worse by killing myself scared me. So it scared me to not do it. But then when you're in that suicidal state, when you're putting things into place, all you can think about is how much better off your child would be with somebody else, and there'll be a better parent out for them, and somebody better to look after them and they'll have a better chance in life than rather being stuck with you, and that you'll just drag them down and whatnot. So in January I decided, I didn't talk to anybody about this. I never really told anybody that I was as suicidal as I was. Apart from the GP, and after I told the GP, I have told my partner, but I don't think he knows to what extreme how suicidal I was. I think he knew I had moments, but I don't think he understood that the majorities of it got more days than not that I was feeling like I didn't deserve to be breathing. So when I went to the doctors, I made the appointment, I think I made it in December, and so I had plenty of time to back out. The only thing that kept pushing me was my son, the idea of causing my son more pain than happiness. So again, it was the whole stigma sort of thing, like, what if I tell the doctor that I'm suicidal? Is she going to call social services and get my son taken away from me? And it's a genuine right, and of course that's not going to happen. And if social services were to get involved, it would be for support, not, they don't want to take kids off their parents as much as what people think, but they have ways of supporting you, and they're absolutely fantastic, and there's no harm in asking for support either. So when I went to the GP and I sat down, I was holding myself together until I sat down, and I said, I'm past the point of being sad. I don't want to exist anymore, and I need to exist to bring up my boy, and I need to be a mum to my boy. He needs his mum back. And I got given the name of a counsellor, which I never got at my first diagnosis. So I'll put a link in the description of the counsellor's name. It is in Scotland, and it's kind of like a charity based counselling service. So I've not actually had counselling yet, because there was quite a waiting list. So I've got my initial counselling in a couple of weeks, which is great. I'm looking forward to getting that started. But yeah, you make a donation towards your counselling, because not everybody can afford it, and it is really expensive, and it's not really a chosen hobby, so you don't want to have to fork out an absolute fortune, especially if it's not your fault. You are the way you are. So that was great that I got a counsellor's name, and eventually it took me a few weeks to apply for that, but I did, and I'm glad I did. I didn't expect much to come from it, and the fact that it has is great. And I got given 10 milligrams, and now I can't pronounce this medication. It starts with C, Citrapram or something like that, I think it's called. So I got put on the 10 milligram dosage of that, and the doctor said, right, talk to me in a couple of weeks, and I'll give you a phone appointment so you don't have to come in, which is great, which is fantastic. So I started them, and I left it for a couple of weeks, and I refused to look at the side effect leaflet for a few weeks, because the last time I looked at the side effect sheet, and I think it was like placebo. It kept playing in my head what was meant to happen to me. So I decided this time that I wouldn't look, and I would just let it take its course. So I did get side effects. So things like my appetite is suppressed, but I don't feel hungry, but I make sure that I eat 3 meals a day. My favourite side effect, and I was like, great, this is a great side effect. I obviously eventually had to read the leaflet because it kept happening, is you get really sweaty, and like, the thing when I say really sweaty, like most people think like your armpits, your back, but for me it was my hands, and it would be after I took the medication, my hands would get really sweaty, and eventually it became just one hand that got sweaty. It was the bizarrest thing to happen to your body, to just take your medication and maybe an hour and a half later, 2 hours, and your hands just going uncontrollably sweaty and wrinkly. It was something I've never experienced before. Also, you might not be able to drive. Your reaction time might be a lot slower. I don't think I'm too bad with that. I mean, I have to have quite a quick reaction time because of my job. So I think my brain's just like, no, I'm not going to let that happen, which is great. You do, what I feel anyway, that I get a wee bit daydreamy quite a lot. Like, it's quite easy to just phase out what's going on around you, which I guess that's where it comes in with the driving thing and things like that as well. You don't really want to start daydreaming when you're driving. And I do find I get a little bit like that at work. Especially when there's a lot going around you. It's like your ears shut off a wee bit to what's going on. And my last side effect is remembering things. Like, my short-term memory right now is abysmal. Like, I can't make a cup of tea right now because I'll start making it and walk away and do something else and find it a couple hours later cold. I keep finding half-drunk cups of tea around the house because I'll get halfway through one and then start doing something else. The simple thing as getting to drink a cup of tea has become a massive task, which isn't great. But there could be a lot worse things in the world. So I got that wee phone call review, and because my moods hadn't really changed, like when I got upset, I was still feeling quite, I can't go straight to the negative. There was still that wee rational bit in my brain still not there. So I got put up to the 20 milligrams, and I've been taking that for about a month, and I've got a review in a couple of weeks, I think it is, to see how I'm feeling. And yes, I am feeling a bit better in myself, definitely better than I was in January. I spoke to one of my friends and I asked her, like, how do you think I am? And she was like, I'll be honest, you look like your emotions were at the surface all the time. You look like you're ready to cry all the time. And you're still looking like that. And that was at the first review. So I said that to the doctor. She was like, right, okay, we'll just up your dosage. And 20 milligrams is about average for most people that's on this medication. So again, I'll ask my friend and see how she thinks, if my mood's improved or not. For me, I'm still very emotional, but it's almost like pregnancy hormones emotional. So you don't feel very stable. It's kind of up and down, up and down. Whereas before I felt like I was always going to cry, whereas now I do get stints of being happy and joyful, but I am still very quick to cry at situations. I'm very hard on myself for being a mum, and when my son does something that I know that I've taught him not to do, I take it very personally, and that does get me crying quite a lot. And I must admit, those points I'm not suicidal anymore, which is great. I just get angry at myself and I put myself down, and I'm really hard on myself. I'm not hard on him. Like, I tell him he knows better, but I'm more hard on me because I feel like I've done something wrong. I've taught him wrong. But I'm not at that point when I get upset that I don't want to be here anymore. I can come back from it, calm down. But if I'm arguing with somebody that I love and care about, I do get back to that suicidal point of I don't deserve the life I have. So I don't think medication's going to sort that. I think that's going to have to come with the counselling as well, hand in hand with the medication, to balance out my emotions whilst I'm going through the counselling, because I can quite believe that counselling's going to bring up some stuff and some emotions and unearth some things that I wanted to stay away. So yeah, it'll be interesting to know or see how the counselling goes, and I will do a video on, especially after my first session and things like that. And as I said, I'll put a link in the description about the counsellors. But, again, if you have any questions or you want to know more of my stories in my journey, then just drop me a comment. Thanks, guys.